Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about something that honestly blew my mind. When I first dug into the research, you know the bench press, right? That classic lift everyone associates with building a bigger chest, looking good at the beach, all that stuff. Well, what if I told you that loading up that barbell might actually be saving your life? Yeah, I'm serious. The bench press isn't just about aesthetics or strength. It's literally protecting your heart. And I've got the studies to prove it. Let me start with something that'll grab your attention. There was this massive study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine that followed over 80,000 adults for nearly 2 decades. The researchers wanted to see how different types of exercise affected mortality rates. And here's what they found. People who did strength training just twice a week had a 23% lower risk of premature death, compared to those who didn't lift at all. But here's the kicker. They also had a 31% lower risk of dying from heart disease specifically. That's huge. We're not talking about marathon runners or cyclists here. We're talking about people who simply picked up weights a couple times a week. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's strength training in general, but what does the bench press specifically have to do with it? Great question. The bench press is what we call a compound movement. It doesn't just work your pecs. When you're lying on that bench, driving that bar up, you're engaging your shoulders, your triceps, your core for stabilization, and even your legs, if you're doing it properly with leg drive. This kind of full-body recruitment is exactly what makes compound lifts so powerful for cardiovascular health. Here's how it works on a physiological level. When you perform resistance training like the bench press, you're creating what scientists call mechanical tension on your muscles. This triggers a cascade of adaptations in your body. Your heart has to work harder to pump blood to those working muscles, which over time actually strengthens your cardiac muscle itself. Think of it like this. Your heart is a muscle too, and just like your chest gets stronger from progressive overload, your heart becomes more efficient at pumping blood when it's regularly challenged. There's also this fascinating thing that happens with your blood vessels. A study from the Journal of Applied Physiology found that regular resistance training improves something called endothelial function. Your endothelium is basically the inner lining of your blood vessels, and when it's functioning properly, your vessels can dilate and constrict efficiently, which regulates blood pressure and reduces the risk of atherosclerosis. That's the buildup of plaque in your arteries. The researchers found that people who did resistance training had significantly better endothelial function compared to sedentary individuals. And this effect was independent of aerobic exercise. So even if you're not a runner, the bench press is keeping your arteries healthy. Let's talk about blood pressure for a second, because this is where it gets really interesting. You know how people always say cardio is the only way to lower blood pressure? Well, that's not entirely accurate. A meta-analysis that reviewed 64 different studies found that resistance training reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of about 3 to 4 millimeters of mercury and diastolic pressure by about 2 to 3 millimeters. Now that might not sound like much, but on a population level, even a reduction of 2 millimeters in systolic pressure can decrease stroke risk by about 10% and heart disease risk by about 7%. When you're benching regularly, you're literally lowering your risk of having a stroke. And if you're enjoying this so far and learning something new, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel out. And it lets me know you want more content, like this that's backed by actual science, not just gym bro wisdom. Now here's something most people don't realize. Resistance training affects your metabolism in ways that directly protect your heart. When you build muscle through exercises like the bench press, you're increasing your lean body mass. Muscle tissue is metabolically active, meaning it burns calories even when you're sitting on the couch. But more importantly for heart health, having more muscle improves your insulin sensitivity. A study in the journal Diabetes Care showed that resistance training significantly improved glucose, metabolism, and insulin sensitivity in both diabetic and non-diabetic individuals. Why does this matter for your heart? Because insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes are major risk factors for cardiovascular disease. By benching regularly, you're helping your body process glucose more effectively, which keeps your blood sugar stable and reduces inflammation in your arteries. Let's also talk about something called VO2 max. This is a measure of how efficiently your body uses oxygen, and it's considered one of the best predictors of cardiovascular health and longevity. For a long time, people thought only aerobic exercise could improve VO2 max, but recent research has shown that high-intensity resistance training including exercises like the bench press, performed with shorter rest periods, can actually boost your VO2 max too. When you're pushing through that last challenging rep, gasping for air between sets, your cardiovascular system is adapting and becoming more efficient. Here's another fascinating piece of research. A study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise found that men who could bench press their body weight had significantly better cardiovascular health markers compared to those who couldn't. We're talking lower levels of inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, better lipid profiles with higher HDL cholesterol, that's the good cholesterol, and lower triglycerides. Muscular strength, it turns out, is a powerful predictor of cardiovascular health that's completely independent of how much cardio you do. The longevity benefits are pretty remarkable too. Research from the University of Sydney tracked over 80,000 people and found that those who incorporated strength training into their routine had a 23% reduction in all-cause mortality. But when they combined strength training with the recommended amount of aerobic exercise, that benefit jumped even higher. The point is, you don't have to choose between the bench, press, and the treadmill. They work synergistically to protect your heart. One more thing I want to mention, because I think it's really important. The mental health benefits of strength training also indirectly protect your heart. Chronic stress and depression are well-established risk factors for heart disease, and multiple studies have shown that resistance training significantly reduces symptoms of anxiety and depression. There's something about the focus required during a heavy bench press set, the measurable progress you make week after week, that has profound psychological benefits. And when your mental health improves, your stress hormones like cortisol decrease, which means less inflammation and less strain on your cardiovascular system. So what's the takeaway here? The bench press and resistance training in general aren't just about building muscle or looking good. They're powerful tools for protecting your heart, improving your metabolic health, and potentially adding years to your life. The research is clear: strength saves lives. Whether you're 25 or 55, whether you're lifting to get bigger or just to stay healthy, every rep you do is an investment in your cardiovascular future. If you found this helpful and you want more evidence-based fitness content, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Now go bench some weight. Your heart will thank you.